chat. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. You know, these intros, they're just between me and you, the people watching the VOD, because the majority of people, I see Kilo, you're here, but the majority of people that end up watching it live don't even see this little bit. It's just between me and you. Brittany Simon just messaged me. She saw that I'm live. I wonder if she pulled it up on her stream. I wonder if I'm talking to her audience right now. Well, let's call her up. So, yeah, I should introduce the stream. I'm talking to Brittany Simon today about my relationship with mrgirl. Apparently her Discord was having fun talking about it, and my letter to him, my letters to his subreddit, and she's interested in talking about it. So without further ado, let's get to it.
What's up, Rosef?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's up?
Okay, people can hear you, yes? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's good. It's okay.
Okay.
People can hear you too.
Okay, good. I gotta deactivate my video from OBS, and then I need to pull you in. I need to pop out this window, and I need to put me in this window, and I need to turn myself on.
All right.
Okay.
I can do that anytime I want.
We can all do that, hopefully. Hopefully we all know how to do that. Okay, let me put our video up on screen. Why does my brain always short circuit the moment, like as if it hasn't done this 1,000 times?
I take that as a compliment.
Because you make it short circuit?
Well, yeah, if your brain short circuits around me, that means something about me. That's cool.
It's around the technology, Smith. It's around the technology.
My brain only short circuits. Oh, okay. Well, my brain only short circuits around people I have some sort of a respect for.
Oh, okay. Wow. Stroking my ego already.
No, I'm trying. That's why I'll do my best to destroy any respect that I have for you in this conversation.
Great. Okay, I love that. Hold on, let me activate my Nightbot so your channel gets promoted while we talk. Okay, Nightbot should be on. Okay, bro. I read your letters out to my audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you say it like that?
Well, you know, we enjoyed them, but we also were pretty critical of them in the best way possible. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, sure. It's certainly, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure, guys, can you hear him? You're typing, you can't hear him, but I think it's because I had his volume down for a moment, but it's back up. Everybody good? I think they can hear you now. It takes a second. I forget what the lag is between my chat and us. I think you're back up.
All right. Well, welcome to this journey. I'm sure it'll be great.
I'm sure it will be great. Okay, so do you want to talk about anything in particular before I dive into the thoughts that I had?
No, I want to know what you think, and then we can go.
Okay. Ready? So first and foremost, I'm going to say it like this, like I said it to my audience. I got no icky feelings reading any of your letters because in my mind, they were not only an art piece, and art comes from the heart, hopefully, but they were about you and not about Max. And I think making it about Max is not paying attention that it's about Smeth's feelings, which have nothing and then something to do with Max, right? Because I really hold the belief that anytime we're upset with people or mad at people or have issues with people, it's something to do with us. And I do think that the world isn't ready to have a conversation about emotions, even though we've started to have it. They're already exhausted by it. They literally will complain, all we do is talk about our feelings. And I'm like, we just started 20 years ago. This isn't even a thing throughout history that people were doing, and you are already burnt out. And then on top of that, because this is what inspired me, I wrote notes, Smeth. This is what inspired me to want to talk to you about this. I'm from, a part of the internet, or my work is always around relationships and interpersonal relationships. And we'll hear this like loneliness crisis is happening. Men are upset with women for keeping them lonely, but then they'll blame women for being emotional, and they won't like meet women where they're at emotionally, or won't talk about their own emotions, or they'll say nobody cares about men's feelings, but when men express their feelings, people dogpile onto them and then make fun of them. And I'm like, oh my God, how do you guys live with this cognitive dissonance? Like, how do you live with the inability to introspect and say to yourselves, when a man shows his feelings, let's see, should we dogpile him, or should we actually like ask him how he's doing and what's up with this? And this is interesting. Can I learn anything from this? Like you even say in the letters, this is for the audience as much as it is for me. I'm giving you tools. And the audience just basically has a feelings towards you and then denies that they're feelings.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like beautiful.
Yeah. I definitely made the thing people were able to paint themselves onto it.
And they did. Like they really did. They told on themselves more than they thought. And it was so interesting to watch them do it. And it's almost like I have to ask like how much of it was orchestrated or predicted by you ahead of posting the letters.
A lot. Okay, so because of my relationship with Max, I have access to the audience of his subreddit. So if I post something there, I know people like, oh, this is Smeth, but his subreddit is mostly filled with anti-fans and haters. It's like it's like I had this epiphany like hearing him talking about it, and I was like I have access to the most provocable artistic audience for like and so like I was like, wow, and then it inspired me to write that.
For real. So what have you learned through the process of writing these posts?
Yep. I learned a lot about myself. First, well, it made me healthier because I got I'm overcoming my people-pleasing tendencies.
Yeah.
And they make me really stupid, and it's like being on drugs almost. But I've learned about responding and to criticism that is very projective and stuff, and it can really trigger the fuck out of me, but I also really don't want to crush it either. So
that's what I think. I saw about half of your stream about am I good at criticism, handling criticism. And it's interesting because in this space, first of all, I love really well-intentioned criticism. Something about it is such a good challenge to my thought process because I think about how I think all the time. I'm always thinking about how I think, right? Why did I do that? Oh, that's interesting. Like, why did I do this? And so for me, I love well thought out criticism, but this space really confuses like criticism with just trauma dumping or twisting a narrative or twisting the like it was interesting to see how sensitive people were about you sharing the letter on the internet. And I was like, well, what about this is private? And for me, like it felt very, not to be such a theater kid, but it felt very like this is this is meant to be consumed. If it was a private conversation, I'm sure it would have happened in private. But obviously, since it didn't, that means it's meant to be consumed.
A lot of that criticism also had an element of quit hitting yourself. And it was like I'm being mean to you, but so it's your fault that I'm being mean to you. So if you don't like it's because I'm being mean to you, you shouldn't have done this. And I'm sorry that I'm being mean to you, but it's your fault. And it's like, I don't know. Well, thanks, I guess.
I think so too. Now, do you feel relieved that you posted it? Excited? Do you feel like you're still in the middle of the performance, if you will?
No, I don't feel like I'm in the middle of the performance. Mostly that part was all sort of short-lived, but the actual conversation between me and Max is the only thing that I'm still like really thinking about.
The replies you guys were having in the Reddit?
Me and Max, yeah, a little bit. It wasn't that much back and forth, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you. Wait, let me look at my notes really fast. Okay. Before I ask you that, actually, let me ask you this. I have a theory that the world is so without its basic emotional needs. Generalizing here, 8 billion people, but I think the world is generally not getting its required needs met emotionally, that people find themselves in positions where they either double down and claim they have no emotional needs, or they exaggerate their emotional needs so someone will pay attention to them to give them their basic emotional needs. Like a kid who like gets pushed on the playground and exaggerates how it felt just so they can get the attention that they needed in the first place but never got. Like a kid who doesn't even get the basic, like I felt in some ways growing up that my parents gave us a lot of emotional attention. And in those ways, we're very independent thinkers. But the ways that my parents neglected us emotionally with no ill intention just happened that way. I felt like then I had to even myself go through teenage spirals of exaggerating my pain so someone would give me just the basic need I needed. Do you in any way feel like that's relatable to either the conversation that's been happening around your letters or?
It's relatable to some of my thoughts I was just having earlier today. I was thinking about boundaries. Like a lot of this has to do with boundaries, but if I have, or if someone else has boundaries with me, if I have boundaries with somebody and they're giving me feedback, constructive criticism, and I'm always extremely receptive, like a fan, then the quality of their feedback is going to be like way lower because they don't actually want to give me feedback. They just want to get me to respond to them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's something to the sort of like attention seeking need that people have. And I think that exists in a world where boundaries are not clear and we're trying to push it as far as we can, because actually we really have a deep need for boundaries, and really we're trying to a lot of people are just like fucking like right in your face screaming at you, just tell me, just like they just want a boundary that exists. They don't know that they want that, but I think that's a need that people have.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously it always thinks that it has to do with us. When we make requests of people, we're trying to make requests for something we need. It is about us. I think people keep saying it's about you. I'm putting this on you, so you're the problem. But it's really about them. And so like I've even run into it over the years with my content where people will say like, hey, I want to give you advice on how to do your work. And I'm like, oh, pause. First, you're not a YouTuber. So unless you're a YouTuber, like your advice is like very much like a fan, but also like you're coming into my place of work and telling me how to do my job. Why? Like, why do you think that's appropriate, right? Like, I don't go to your work.
It could be a particularly creative idea that they're giving to you.
Yes, it
But
could be. So that's why
yeah.
I ask, like, what is the intention of this so I can listen? Because I need to know the goal of a conversation because I know it could go so many ways. So obviously, when it comes down to people who are actually just trying to get me to change my opinions or trying to get me to voice their opinions through my content, I'm like, you become the YouTuber, bro. Like, I'm not here to be your vessel. But also, I think it's interesting that content creators in particular, even me, I have the hardest time explaining to people, like, we're content creators. This is work. It's a very serious job to me, obviously, but it is my job. I come to work. And then at the same time, it's obviously me. I'm not performing. I mean, I'm performing, but I'm not fully performing in a sense. Like, this is me. I didn't create a character. My name is Brittany. Like, this is my mom and dad call me. That's my name. And like, I'm here to express my ideas to the world. But I think people forget, like, also there's a part of the performance. So when I saw your letter, I was processing it as RealSmeth having real feelings, talking about something that's real to him, and a performance for the audience to also learn from. Like a person who puts on a play that's about their life, like it's still a performance, but it's really about them. And then you're realizing it's really about you.
When you say them and you mean like you referring to the person looking at it, the audience?
Like it's about the performer, Smeth, and about the audience to get that tool from Smith, but it's really about them. So when we love art, when we say this piece of art really said something to me, and then we get obsessed with the person who made it, and then we meet that person and realize like they're not the thing that the art meant to us, what we're really saying is like this art meant something to me because it was always about me. Like a mistake I've always, you know that saying, don't meet your heroes?
Yeah.
It's because we fall in love with the version of those people in our heads that has to do with us. Yeah. So when so I have to ask you a question then, if you understand, you've basically
sense,
right?
You've basically been speed running all the topics that have come out of this space.
Oh, right, perfect. Okay. So now it has to go on to that question about the parasocial relationship with Max. Like, how much of Max's parasocial relationship that you're having with him, or whatever, however you want to explain that? Because I kind of think he's having one with you a little bit, but I'm not sure. Right? Okay, good. Okay, I don't mean to put that on you guys, but it feels like that. Like you guys are using each other.
It depends on how you define parasocial relationship. Like he explicitly said that it's not parasocial, and with a specific definition, with the definition that a parasocial relationship is a specific relationship where it's like it's one-sided, one person like doesn't know like about the other person type thing. The way you're defining it is more like parasocial is a feeling, and in that way, and I pointed this out before for him. Because I also think it's funny, but I think we in that way have a co-parasocial relationship. In fact, I think that he probably is more parasocial than me because he's the one holding all the boundaries, and I can literally tell him anything I think about him at any time, and he can't with me, and he won't. He refuses to.
There's something, okay, that's funny you said that because I noticed
he's gonna watch this.
Have you ever been in a group of people where it's like, oh my God, I love you. I love this person. This person is the greatest person I've ever met. I love everything about them. And in some ways you're saying that because you like the way that it's been going, but you can't, and in some ways someone might hear that and think you're vouching for them. Like you're saying, I know this person intimately, therefore I can speak on their behalf, but you could be saying so many things. That's how I feel like Max puts up this, and I'm not really, this isn't even about Max, this is about you, but like Max puts up this wall that allows him to have a distance, which then forces him when he's having a relationship with other people to actually have it be sort of parasocial because he can't allow himself to be vulnerable enough to have a real relationship. So therefore it is only the relationship that is able, but then he has to fill in all the gaps of who you are, which is sort of the parasocial, like filling in the gaps, right? Because like that's the danger of parasocial is like you're not having the real relationship, so you're having the one in your head.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's not what I think is happening here, but that might be true about him. I think that the boundaries that he has with me are for me.
I think that's possible as well, right? Can it be both or no? Go into that.
It could be both, but I can definitely see how the boundaries are good for me, and I can definitely see how he knows that. It could be that they are good for him, and that would be that distinction is very big. I wrote very small notes while I was working today, like just some thoughts I had, and that was one of the things I put, thinking about where you might go with this. What did I write? I said, am I being taken a hold of by a narcissist, or am I being taken under the wing of someone who's caring. And that comes down to the intention of his boundaries, if they exist for him or if they exist for me.
Well, shouldn't they exist for both of you as a symbiotic like relationship?
Right. He's done a good job of not letting me know how the boundaries are for him.
Oh, interesting. Like, I've had mentors in the past, so I also want to know, how is he mentoring you? What's the relationship there? Because I know my mentors, great people, we also had a non-peer relationship. We were not peers. They were my mentors, and we weren't friends. I was there to learn from them, and they were there to teach me something, and they didn't know much about me personally. They knew just what they needed to know in order to help me with what they were helping me with. So there was always like a realness to the relationship, but it wasn't a close, intimate relationship, even though looking from the outside, it certainly looked that way. And it was to an extent, because I think there's intimacy with all relationships. Like, what is intimacy? So can you explain sort of your relationship with your mentor-mentee relationship with Max?
Yeah, I mean, I'll message him. Sometimes I'll talk about some things that I am going through related to my content. But really, honestly, he's not like a mentor to me in the way of like the content. The thing, and this is kind of like weird, but you've said in the past that you don't really think you understand him. I can relate to him in a couple of ways. I think that I have some of the same mental illnesses as him. And there's a strong connection between mental illness and creativity. And the distinction there is, if you're able to overcome your mental illness, then basically now you're a creative person. And that's not like a cold cut. I think that seems to be the case.
If you overcome your mental illness, then you can become a creative person?
Yeah. So creativity in itself is basically the way it functions in your brain has a lot of parallels with like cluster B, like bullshit, psychosis, even parallels with psychopathy. And the distinction there, I think, is a creative person. There's also a correlation between IQ and being like highly creative. And I think that it's like if you are there's a theory that you could have the same person. They have a lower IQ and lower support network, all these things. They end up just very mentally ill. And then the same person with a higher IQ would end up being just very creative because they're able to like create structures around their quote unquote mental illness that make it more of a positive trait that they can use. Like it's like a beast they've lassoed, because it's a chaos that allows you to create. You have to be a little bit delusional to be creative. That's just what I've been thinking about lately. I've been thinking a lot about creativity, but from that framework, I can relate to him as far as his people-pleasing tendencies and stuff, and the way that he's overcoming it. And I think that may be part of why you don't really like him too, but that's what I like about him.
Well, are you like his mental illness is the reason I don't like him?
No, the way he overcomes it.
Does he overcome it?
I think so. I think the way he overcomes it, the people-pleasing stuff, presents in a way that is very distasteful to a lot of people.
I will say, in your letter to him, you said, no. In your letter to, I think, the Reddit, you were saying that he actually isn't a conformist, and because of that, it frustrates people in a way. And I will say, like, for all of Max's flaws, he at least has values I can follow, sort of, which is what I rely in people, is like, what are your values so I know what your consistency will be? And even though I don't agree with the way that Max operates within the world in a sense, but like that's a me thing, that's my problem, right? That's a Brittany perception. I do at least and can rely on him to have pretty consistent values if you can understand Max enough So I can understand him enough to do that, but also still place him in a box that I don't want to interact with all the same, which is interesting versus other people. If I can't latch onto their values very hard and I can't predict what they're going to do, like reliability wise, consistency, then I do get much more nervous. Like Max makes me feel uncomfortable, but not as much as he did before, but also not any more comfortable than he did before either. Like I don't feel much safer like thinking about Max. But you feel like really safe around him, right? Like you don't have any icky feelings when dealing with him, even though you said you felt shame, maybe.
Yesterday, I asked him, how do you feel when I've been making jokes about skinning you and sending pipe bombs to your house a couple times on stream and stuff. So I said, how do you feel about that? Do you want me to stop doing that? And then he told me that he like paused and he thought about it and he said, he like got really serious. He's like, if you do something that I want you to stop doing, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to tell you how I feel about that. And that to me, the emotions that I get from that are it's something that the first time you experience something like that, it's much more startling, and then it becomes incredibly relieving, and there's a lot of security in it, because I think that it is he is just stable. I don't have to fight for him to give me boundaries. And yeah, she's like expressing care for me, but also, yeah, it's just a lot of different things.
It sounds like a really safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you're allowed to be, forgive my French, a little bit like no matter how rebellious or wild or crazy, he'll just be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel that as like an older sister a little bit, where I feel like my job as the older sister is to have her siblings call her and tell her all the bad choices they're making, and for me to be like, okay, well, okay, like if you want advice, I'll give it to you, but otherwise, like I trust you to go on your journey, like, and do your thing. But I also, as the older sister, have let go of any control over me making decisions for them. It's not up to me. Like I don't get to make those decisions. And so I wonder if, like, I mean, that seems like a really nice space to have. Like I've loved that in my life, being able to go to someone and be like, here's all my ugly, are we good? And then be like, yeah, I get it. Like I get the human experience you're having. So it sounds like Max is giving you an opportunity to be like human in a way that other people haven't given you, maybe?
No. What he's doing is he is not letting me people please him. And so when I asked him that, I was slipping back. And that's what I think I saw in him, a little bit of anger at me for slipping back into that, because me asking that is me just people pleasing him. I'm trying to figure out how I can take control back. So I need to know how you feel so I can make sure that I take care of you. And he's like, no, you're not taking care of me. No, it's not. It's not happening. And that is why it's like a scary thing at first, but it's like it's something that's important to have, and now I'm really glad for it. And now it's like I was dumber in that moment. He fixed my brain again for a moment. You know what I mean? It's like slipping.
Yeah. Back. Yeah. Interesting, actually.
Like the way he can do that is also like I could message him and he could just not respond.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? What if that happens?
Same way.
Yeah, he really is taking the burden off of you to like worry, I suppose. Or he's teaching you not, because I'm not much of a people pleaser, but I have enough of it to know that at least it could be a little like a loopy, like you could worry too much about things that are unnecessary. Is that kind of a part of your schema?
No, it's this is what happens. It'll be that, so if I'm people pleasing you, Especially with somebody like you who is very verbose and very creative with how you think, and you have a lot of thoughts. Especially if it was you, which has happened with me, if you in some capacity, it was just happening, and I noticed myself slipping a second ago, and it means that my brain, I've stopped thinking my own thoughts, and I'm simulating yours because I'm trying to take care of you, and I'm literally just feel like I'm like a lot of THC, or like I feel retarded. Like my ability to process my own thoughts is like dramatically diminished because I'm taking care of you. It's like I'm trying to like run a virtual machine in my head of you.
What are the steps you take to know the difference between what's happening?
I can definitely feel it. I feel that it's like molasses when it happens. But that being said, that when I was talking about creativity and like being from like a mental illness, that the tool that he has for his creativity is also the tool that I think I have, because when I'm not doing that, all that built up psychic skill of simulating the other person is still there, and that gives me a lot to work with creatively, even if I'm wrong. You know.
How long, or I think like life is like all these moments of time, right? And like some moments last a lifetime. How long do you think this moment will last between you and Max?
I don't know.
Does it matter?
No.
Okay.
Forever.
Well, until he dies first, because he's older.
Yeah.
Or if you die first. Okay, that's interesting. What part of this is like an experiment to you versus like you're actually like living your life? Even though you're always living your life, but how much of it is like happening naturally and how much of it is planned? Even the interactions with Max.
Like what I'm doing right now, like my just life in general.
Like, okay, so you're having this moment with Max and we're talking about the moment. So we're observing the moment as it's happening. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Oh, my allergies today. So you're in a moment of your life. You're literally living it. You're 30, right?
Yep.
Okay, you're like living your life. When you're 50, are you gonna look back at this moment in your life and think, oh, that was like, I didn't even know what I was doing then? Or are you gonna say like, oh, I remember like calculating and being thoughtful and being focused and being, you know, really curating the moment to be what it was. I really wanted to learn something. So I remember taking charge. Do you feel like you're taking charge of the moment?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you feel like, okay.
Yes. I feel like, yeah, I'm taking the bull by the horns with my life. I've realized that I'm making a lot of. I'm gonna be an artist. I mean, I went to art school, and after art school, then I started freaking out, especially like that video I talked to you about, especially because of that guy and all of his insecurities got put onto me, and it really made me put aside my desire to be an artist, and I just wanted to make money. But now I'm realizing I want to be an artist, and what that means, it might be that I'm poor forever, and I just want to like literally just be a janitor and do my art, and if that makes me eventually not have to be a janitor, then that's good. And that's a big thing to accept.
Yeah, it is. That's interesting. And by art, do you mean a painter or some different, like
My
a content
stream
creator?
is my art, my videos. I don't like the word content. Content is like something that you would describe, like a word that you would describe for something that fills up the empty space in a box. It's the content of the box, you know? But if you if I have like a vision, then I mean, one man's vision is another man's content, you know? so
Yeah. I think you're right. If to be completely fair, to even contrast our work, like even though in my life I felt more like an artist, I usually just feel like a content creator as of late, and I feel pretty good about that. But I really like my content. Like I make content that I also kind of watch. Like I watch very similar YouTubers myself in my like leisurely time. And so for me, like I love this and I don't need it to be art, but I will say it also stops me from having a vision about my job and I focus on it as content creation. But I will say when I watch your work, it feels much more like an art piece. Like your choice of using music the way you've done lately has really stood out to me of like, oh, this is like different. A part of me like hates it and a part of me like really likes it
Well,
and a part of me likes
everybody's
yeah.
saying that they're like either people are saying I love it or I hate it or both. But I'm really enjoying doing that, but yeah, it definitely is gonna make people not want to like watch my videos on their stream as much, but I put a lot of work into finding music that is not gonna be copyright struck.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like like even that, I'm like, oh, there he goes. Like when you were talking, I don't know who, but you were like, okay, hold on, and then you like clicked a song on, and I was just like he's making an effort. There's something in it that's thoughtful, and like he's making the decision, and like he's doing it for a reason. Like, oh, what's the reason? And also, how do I feel about it? And like your streams do force me. Like, one time I like ran to the phone and I paused it, and I was like, why is the music so irritating? And then I was like, but I like the sound of it, but I can't focus on the conversation. And I was like, what is he doing to me? What is he doing to me? What is he doing? And then I sat there in my kitchen, like wondering, I was like, what is Smeth trying to do? And then I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. And then I pressed play again. And like, look, if that's the way you want to make art, I think that is what art is, right? Like you're evoking this like thing, whether it's conflict or emotion, like you're making me feel emotional.
I do think that you are a very artistic person. Like so,
unartistic?
An artistic person.
Oh, an art and
yeah. I think that in the way that Max has harnessed his people pleaser, I think like I don't mean this to be like offensive or anything. And this kind of is funny because it reminds me of something you told me that you really disagree with Not So Erudite that she said about you. But I think that you've harnessed the BPD to be very creative in your thinking. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because I didn't know I had borderline until so late in life, it doesn't feel like a main character to me.
Yeah.
And so since I have always attributed everything about me, I'm going to try to go get assessed for autism or ADHD because I think that would explain so much more of my whole life than borderline. I would think, because even if I stand back to my earliest childhood memories, like do you know who, I'm aging myself here. Do you know who Punky Brewster is? Do you know that reference?
No, that name, I'm sure I've heard that before, but
it's an old cartoon, but she's a very loud, colorful little girl, and everyone growing up called me Punky Brewster. And stuff like that was my life growing up. And I think that I always saw myself as an artist or wanted to be an artist. I was a theater kid. Like I wanted to perform. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to be a writer. I've read there's a reason I read over 2,000 books. Like I wrote books. I tried to get things published. Like my whole early 20s was me sending letters to agents and getting rejected. Like I've wanted to be an artist. And then I settled into a life in which I feel like I never cared enough to be the artist. Like I'm not Lady Gaga. I could never obsess over anything that long. Like I always joke I don't have autism. That's
exactly what I see in you. I don't see the can't. What I see is you have the you're absorbing a lot. You're very scattered, but that means that you have that potential if you could focus. And
yeah. Well, I joke. I told my partner, I was like, if you get me on meds for ADHD, I'm gonna take over the world because I'll be able to focus on something. Like you better get ready, YouTube. But like that's the thing is that I accept this part of me, but then I also am in conflict with her. Because like when I have my like my little neurodivergent meltdowns or like I'm overstimulated to such a point where I'm like, I can't focus. Which thing do I do next? I'm like, oh, like this is so, and then I observe myself like melting on the ground. I'm like, you could have just made a decision. And like, there's no decision to be made. And the only decision to make is to melt down. And you're like, okay. But then I used to just put that shit on the internet, but now I don't want to do that. Like, I don't think the internet has earned my vulnerability anymore. I think the internet is like, only in certain spaces is it safe, and only in certain spaces is your letters going to be received for what they are versus twisted in something ugly and malicious.
That's what I thought you were going to talk about, like first and foremost. But okay, like, and so I've been thinking about your fucking bubbles, okay, and I always have had a love-hate relationship with this concept, and I've realized what it is because one of the first things that I thought about in relationship with the letter is your bubbles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because, that is a bubble and I'm putting that into that bubble. And so it sounds like from what you just said that you're saying that that's not the bubble to receive it, but also it's the right bubble, I think, for what I was trying to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that you're
Yes.
saying that. Well,
I agree.
it's not, I also am disappointed that you're saying that because I wanted to argue with that. But anyway.
No.
Anyway.
No, you're right.
So that's not
Yeah.
going to happen. But I don't like your bubbles because of the word bubble to me.
Sure.
I've heard you talking about popping bubbles. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that, but the word bubble to me doesn't fit the way I would want to talk about it. I would want to talk about it as like light sources, and there's no skin on the outside of a light source.
Like, are you afraid the bubble will keep you trapped?
Well, the bubble implies that, and also like the talking about like popping bubbles, like like if you have like a green, you have a blue light and a yellow light, and you, or like, let's say that you are a green, and you go into the yellow light area, and they're all like screaming at you because you're blue, because that's how you look to them. It's not that you've popped anything, it's just that their perception of you is different. But I mean, I just want to like, I don't see it as like popping. I just see it as like interbreeding, like it's.
Yeah. So I always give an example of like, if somebody read your letters on that Reddit post and had a realization like, wait, I think Smeth is like evoking something within me that is shattering my perception of what I thought that was ultimately true. And I'm realizing like maybe something else is true. That's like a possibility of a bubble pop. They're having the realization like their perception is only that. So like there are people who travel all over the world and never have a bubble pop, even though they're visiting completely different cultures with completely different beliefs and completely different like modes of thinking, but they don't have the bubble pop. Then there are people that go on one trip to Mexico or, France, and they're like, the world doesn't live like me? And I'm like, no. And they're like,
Yeah.
Holy shit. And I'm like, welcome to a bubble pop. And then there are people who can have bubble pops as 2s or 3s or 4s. My bubble is always being popped. I'm always reading something. I'm like, guys, bubble pop. I never knew this. Holy fuck.
Yeah, because it's like you were yellow and now you become a green, which means that you encompass both yellow and blue. So it's like you're in a bigger bubble that encompasses other bubbles. So like,
ultimately we are all in the bubble of the universe, right? Because we're all just an organism living within it.
But the thing that I find frustrating is like someone like I'm very, very fixated on the language you use. It's very weird for me. But like if I am in, if I'll want to go to a bubble to have a conversation. And this bubble exists completely within the boundaries of my own bubble. But my bubble is bigger than that bubble. So I want to go there to have this conversation, but they don't want me to be there. So it's like so that's what I don't like about the bubbles, but I don't think you're wrong. I think it's accurate to actually to the observation of the world that there is these skins around these bubbles. But what that does is it's all to keep going with this like artistic metaphor. It's like it creates air bubbles within your own bubble that you're now, the bigger your bubble gets, there are parts of your own bubble that are now inaccessible to you. And yeah, I don't like that. That's why I'd rather just be light, I don't want there to be skin. I want to, in any bubble inside of my bubble, I want to be acid,
Like you want to experience it all?
No, I want them to, I don't want to be alone. I don't want, the bigger my bubble gets, the more that any other bubble inside of my bubble sees me as an other.
I see my bubble as getting smaller with the more I know, not bigger. Because so Brittany created a bubble for herself. And the only other person I've ever invited inside of my particular bubble is my husband and my cat. Those are the only people that live in my particular bubble, meaning they see the world in a way that allows me to unmask completely and speak candidly. I can be completely vulnerable with these people. I can like express myself in every way, and it's like understood and processed because we live in a similar enough bubble, or we made our own bubble together, that we together agree on like what is real, and our perceptions are very similar even when we have a difference of opinion. Versus when I hop into other people's bubble, or like maybe you and I are forming a bubble right now. They're all different moments. I can have a bubble within nature. If I'm just sitting in a forest, I'm in like the forest bubble and I'm experiencing this part of nature, this real moment. But if I pop a bubble, which is a realization that like, oh, people live this way and it's very serious for them. It's like when Catholics and Muslims look at each other and they think I'm the one true religion. If only the other one knew. And I'm looking at them like, bros, you're the same. Like, you're the same. And everyone's like, you're not the same. But like, you are the same. But they don't live in the same bubbles, but they live in the same Abrahamic bubble because they both have Abraham as their forefather. So they actually do share a bubble. It's Abraham's bubble. But then within Abraham's bubble, they form their own bubbles. And then within those bubbles, there's the different kinds of Muslims, right? Like Sunni and stuff, right? Is that it? And then there's the Catholics, and there's the Roman Catholics, and then the Orthodox Catholics, and then there's like these bubbles, and everyone keeps pulling off into more and more bubbles, and then there's like countless thousands, billions of bubbles.
I think that the bubbles is all partly I do think that's absolutely the world we live in, but I think partly it's because of the way we engage with like social media and stuff. Like in particular, like one thing that I think forces this, like people into really like pudding thick skin bubbles is like Reddit, because I for like a short period of time, I went into Reddit like super starry-eyed and like, oh, this platform's actually really cool. And then I realized if you go to any Reddit that has more than 2,000 people with I'll be like, have a slightly contrary opinion to them, but like it's something you should find interesting. I don't think this is different from the people you disagree with. This is a new way to think about this. I want to bring this here, see what you guys think. Fuck you, band. You're a bigot or whatever, you know. And it's like, no, I just wanted it. And so I think that the way we engage with social media forces is like Twitter, like it's all about like being hateful and mean and like fighting people that are different from you. And Facebook is more like purely the way you're describing bubbles. I think without any like, because the bubbles sort of just happen the way they are. Sort of there's not too much mixing and stuff with Facebook.
I haven't been on Facebook in a lot of years. All I know is like a boomer site. I will say like, so realistically, my role as like what I would call, so this is what a 5 would think, right? A 5 would eventually get to the point, hopefully, this is the point if you're evoking 5 thinking, is like, this is how the world is. It's a radical acceptance that the world is molded by our perceptions and is heavily created and built off belief, not our relationship to objective. Because like, perception is our only mode of understanding. So the chances that we're interacting with objective truth is actually pretty like improbable. But it's an interesting like thing to look for, because my truth, your truth, the truth. That's why I think people create the mythos of God, because he can see all, even when like he knows the truth. Santa Claus, like he knows the truth whether we like it or not. We actually don't have access to that. We have only access to how our perception like processed information and how we feel about it, and then the conclusions we make, right?
Sure, but I don't want to like I completely understand that. Like I understand that a lot of the creative ways of thinking that I come up with, I always take with a grain of salt. Like when I theorized about me and Max having a co-parasocial relationship, like I was like, I made a very facetious post about that, because I knew that, like, I actually thought that, but also it sounds really funny. And I like it is, I'm sure that it like, there's probably like more that I could learn or whatever, but I know that I don't want to devalue my perception. I want to recognize that my perception is limited, but I don't want to devalue it.
Well, whatever's happening between you and Max is obviously more than even we're able to process or perceive, because we don't have access to the actual feelings or emotions or connectivity you guys are having. And so it's hard for people to see that and not prescribe like, oh, go see a therapist. Oh my God, this is mental health. Oh, this is so personal. Like the way people were, and that's really them telling on themselves. This is how I perceived it. So I need to tell Smeth that's what I'm seeing. Like when I make content and I'm like heavily criticizing someone, ultimately it's about what I'm perceiving. It's not even what I'm saying is true. It's what I'm perceiving.
Yeah, but that's why I don't want to shut that down, because the way, like what I was just saying about myself, like the way that you're perceiving it, like could be, even though you're completely wrong, could actually be really a useful thing.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why I think again, when we're even having discussions about like good and bad and evil and joy and like all these things, we're having conversations about our perception of these words that are constructs we created as a species. We like gave a word to it. And we're like, we've decided like this is what this is. So when you said parasocial, we're all reading that and having a different relationship with it. Or when you said, I love you. Oh my God, the meltdowns over the word love.
I
And I
don't
have a
think I
panel
said
coming up.
parasocial in that letter.
Did you in the third when the one were to the Reddit? I read it today
Oh
with my
yeah,
viewers.
yeah. The third one that was to
Oh,
the Reddit. Yeah, but
to the Reddit, to the
but
Reddit.
I'm using the word parasocial in a very specific way where I'm talking. If I say co-parasocial, if I'm defining it that way, honestly though, this is why it's creative, but the extension of that worldview is that all people who have actual social relationships are all also parasocial. Because the moment that I stop talking to you, now my relationship to you is now parasocial to the extent that I'm not talking to you. So, yeah.
It's what it is it's setting up that's why this is why on this part of the internet, I don't know how socially like inept everybody is, but like in real life, you go about not talking to certain people for a very long time. And usually what happens is people only remember you as that person they knew. And when they see you again, don't realize like, time has happened. So change has hopefully occurred. And it's hard for people, even in like outside the internet, to realize and to treat you as a consciousness that has changed. Have you ever had that happen where someone treats you like you're still this 15-year-old boy from high school? You're like, what are you doing? I'm like 22 now. I'm 25 now. I'm 29 now. Things have changed. It's like people are having sort of they're filling in the gaps. They're not seeing you. They're seeing the version of you that stayed in their head.
I think that I have an effect on people that makes that hard to happen. I think I have what is I don't think that I'm a schizoid, but I think that I have the enigma effect just by virtue of being really introverted. Like a schizoid is like somebody that is like completely like kind of like just kind of thoughtless and empty, but everybody thinks that they're an enigma. Like you're really curious, but you don't understand what's happening. But I'm just so introverted that the only people that I really get close with don't really have that experience you're talking about, because I'm not so extroverted that I have that experience. Like, so the people that I will come back to won't have been close enough usually to have that weird lapse experience.
So then does it happen on the internet when people are perceiving you?
Yeah.
Because you've changed from the first time that I saw you on the internet till now. I'm seeing a different part of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I right now my struggle is learning to love earlier me. I wouldn't have been a problem if I didn't record it, but because I recorded it, it's something that bothers me, and I need to love that me. But yeah, I think it's hard to know how much of that is sort of predatory or like malicious, not like predatory, but just trying to be mean. Yeah.
I call them the mean autists.
Yeah.
There's nice autists, they're
yes.
sweet and gay and into glitter, and then there's the mean autists that are like, I'm a logic bro, and I'm like, okay.
Yes. Yeah, like the first letter that you probably read, the one to Max, I think I mentioned that I don't use Reddit a lot, and now I've been using it a lot since then. And it's like, so like you're acting like, and I'm like, obviously no, I can't say that anymore. I said that on the first post, and that was true then, but I can't say that now. That would be stupid. It would be dumb. It's not true anymore. Yeah.
So you've changed, like you've already become like you're like I'm a
Redditor now.
Yeah, a Redditor now, that's so funny. But like that, okay, I love that idea of you trying to like almost pop these people's bubbles and give them a different perspective. But the dilemma is that that's why I say it's so scary to like be introspective, because you would have to reframe how you even interact with the world. You'd have to have a different relationship with everything. Or you could just double down and pretend you didn't have that like realization, be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Because the same people that get a thrill off writing you, like I've never posted a comment on Reddit. Like I don't have time for this, but maybe I become a person in the future that wants to do that, right? But these people took time out of their day to write you novels about like
Yeah.
what you're doing, and then I'm like, how are they not being parasocial with you? Like, I don't even understand the cognitive dissonance of like, how are they lecturing you about being parasocial with Max when they're being parasocial with you?
Because I think that there's this assumption. I don't know how much of it is genuine, but there's this assumption, especially with Max, of
Mm.
negative intent with that particular audience in particular. And I think you've done it a little bit too, but not like that.
Mm.
Like he gives that off, and people get that out of him. That people, he's so unenmeshed with a lot of like he's his in his retaliation against his own people pleasing tendencies. He's proudly become extremely unenmeshed with other people's like needs and other like social like shit. It's not he's autistic. It's just he's like very rebellious against these like social norms and stuff like that, and it does give him a stink that makes people think that you're not a good guy, are you? It's like that kind of.
Mm.
But he
My
is.
Discord thinks he
That's
might have
why
autism because of his crazy sense of justice, bro. Almost like he cares too much.
I feel like his ethical world view is like kind of his art project. Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to be a messiah. It's like
yeah, that's the unlikability part.
Yeah.
Who likes a messiah, bro? Except like desperate people, and I hate desperate. I hate it in people. It's gross.
Well, I like him.
Yeah, that's like that part is interesting. You know what's funny is like I'm not gonna speak for my Discord necessarily, but I will say like in general my assumption is like similar to me. We like you, or some people like you, and we think that's interesting. That journey's interesting, but we don't like Max, and so we're like, what's he doing? Like, what's this journey? But obviously, Max is like this amazing tool, which we all are to one another, in a good and hopefully good way. Like, hopefully, you're not taking advantage of him, and he's not taking advantage of you. So hopefully, there's that. But you said something that I thought was interesting. You said something to the effect of like, because of the way that you feel or love him, it gives him the advantage in the relationship. I'm misquoting you, but
well, that at that point when I was writing that letter, I was further behind in my journey. That letter was very good for me. I'm speaking in I'm interested in how I am speaking in Brittany language, but also I'm not people pleasing you too. Anyway, he when I wrote that, what was the thing you just said? Get me back on track. I don't know.
Something like because of the way that you feel for him, he has an advantage in the relationship.
Yes, it was because of the so it's because I'm not telling him that I loved him. Because I was under the assumption from like early on in like our conversations and stuff, like one of the first things he says is, I think you actually hate me. And so I was literally ever since that moment people pleasing him and unable to, and it made me stupid. And to fix that, I had to tell him that I loved him, and maybe I do hate him in ways. And that's what I said in like the letter. The only way I can like actually access those actual negative feelings about you now is I have to actually tell you that I love you.
And then did you feel like relieved?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually like yeah, I feel a little bit worried about him in a way that I didn't feel before. And this worry is not a reaction to him. It's a worry because I know that the way I'm thinking about him, at least right now, I'm not people pleasing him in my mind. And that thought worries me, which I think is good. I don't care that it worries me, but he's giving me that ability to not have to worry.
It feels a little bit to me like the truth will set you free, but also now you have a new responsibility to the self because of this newfound freedom.
It's not, it's a responsibility that I actually, it's the part of me, the people pleaser, is like looking back over my shoulder like, are you sure? You know, that's what I'm saying. It's not like a responsibility. It's the same thing, but it's not in control of my decision-making process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Are you sure you don't have to? Because if you actually say what you think about him, if you actually are able to think about how awful of a person he is, that might hurt him, and you care about him, don't you? You know, like you say that he has a stink on him. How might that make him feel, Seth? You know, like you know, like, and yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I've allowed myself to not be taking care of him.
There's something to this that connects to something, but I'm not sure if it relates truly or if it's just my brain going in that direction. And of course, making it about me. But it's interesting, like the bluntness in a relationship, how it can feel really freeing. I know some people felt that about Max. Like he felt so real because he was just saying his thoughts, but it felt inauthentic after a while because it didn't match up with like any part of reality they understood. But when you can speak bluntly to him, does it just feel so real that it feels like the best, like, oh, this feels really good, and he accepts it and doesn't run away from it?
I think that like I said that I'm trying to overcome my people pleasing tendencies, but I don't think that I'm actually anywhere near the end of that journey. And so I think that the next time that I talk to him, I'm going to come to another hurdle, and it's just gonna, it does feel like it's snowballing for me, but with other people. But other people will let you people please them, and other people, because so like talking to him, like for the first couple of times I ever talked to him, I felt like it was like, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, actually. This is something I think a lot of people experience with him that really freaks them out. It felt like an extreme chaotic roller coaster. And the reason for that is because genuinely, because my people pleasing has got so many layers and shit. That's what I was trying to say before, but before I move on for whatever the fuck I was trying to say. He is so direct and blunt and not trying to, like, he wants conflict. He wants you to be antagonistic. He wants you to say what you actually think about him. He wants it to go in all these directions. And so as a people pleaser, you are like like doing all these fucking backflips all over the place.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
That's weird. Why does he want the conflict? Because I want the bluntness without the conflict, because I don't know why it has to be, why there has to be the conflict.
I think part of it is the content, because I think it's what's interesting content. But also that is, it's just like, I think that might be a need for him, because without the conflict, he will start people pleasing.
Without the conflict, he'll start people pleasing.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I wonder if there's like a moment where like you people please to avoid the conflict, but then you can't people please, so you create the conflict, but then you're creating the conflict to...
And there always is conflict, and he'll find it, and he'll put it right there. Yes.
Yeah. But that's what feels disingenuous sometimes. It feels like he creates the conflict by creating a myth. And then I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how do I... That's what I don't like about this whole space, is like, you'll say something so innocent, and then they'll turn it and twist it, and then I'm like, I don't know how to have this conversation now, because I'm not even talking about that.
Well, it's the chicken or the egg, because the myth you're talking about is going to come down to how he feels. But did he muster that feeling out of a need to have conflict, or was it truly... And I don't think it's 100% either way. I think sometimes he might actually do that accidentally, but I do think a lot of the times he actually is not doing that. But that's a possibility. He could be creating a feeling just to have conflict without realizing it.
Are your emotions or feelings a representation of the truth because they're happening, or the truth because there's something that needs to be dissected to see if they actually are the truth? Like, are they do they always represent the truth just because they're happening, or do they represent something that's happening but that might not be true?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Can you explain that?
Okay, well, this is like a borderline DBT thing, right? Like, you have a feeling, but your job is to dissect if it's real. Not that it's not happening, it's always happening. The question is, why is it happening? So when you say, I want to have like a relationship with feelings, or like you want to know your feelings, are you learning something about yourself that you think is true, or something that you think is happening? Or both?
What's the difference between something that's true and something that's happening?
Well, like, I have feelings all the time that are happening, but they're not true. Like, they don't represent any part of reality. So it's my job to say, okay, Brittany, like, this is a feeling, like, you're angry right now, but your anger is actually attached to trauma that happened like 5 years ago and has nothing to do with this moment.
So this is a distinction that we have in our worldview then, because while I can have a conversation about where my feelings come from and stuff, I think like, I will have this in a interpersonal, like, close conflict that I'm having, like, with someone I'm dating or something. Like, my feelings, like, I will 100%, and I want you to always know that I'm not, like, I don't actually just think I'm right, but my feelings are a fact. And the fact that I'm having them means that we should talk about it, but it doesn't mean it's you, but it's still a fact that I feel that way. And so bringing it out there is not me saying, like, so if I'm angry because I think you're cheating or something, that doesn't mean you're cheating. I'm angry because I think you're cheating. So that is what we're talking about. It's like, I am angry that because I think you're cheating. So it doesn't, I don't know either way. I don't want to decide either way, especially if it's interpersonally. I want the other person to be part of deciding. That freaks a lot of people out because they want you to have already decided. But that's part of my, and I just, in contextualizing this earlier today, that's part of how I am creative without being insane, by having creative thoughts without deciding that they are reality.
Yeah, I think like, why is like my favorite question. Like, well, why is that happening? Like, why does that feel? Which is, again, like, a safe space with my husband. Like, obviously I married him for a reason, because we're allowed, we have permission to say all of our thoughts out loud without punishment and without, like, assuming the worst. We assume the best. And I'm allowed to say, I have this feeling I'm having. Can we talk about it? Because I either need to figure out where it's coming from, or I need to figure out if we need to do something about it, or if I just have to write it like not an episode, but like a high, like a shroom trip. Like, sometimes I just write my feelings like a shroom trip, where I'm like, I can't do anything about this, so I just have to write it and let it, like, finish. And then after, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Why did that happen? But I think that a lot of people either think they are their feelings, or they are their feelings and they're neglecting their feelings, so they're neglecting themselves. And I think figuring out which one it is very difficult without the right tools. Or you double down and you logic your way through your feelings, and then the conclusion you come to, though sounds right, is actually totally fucking wrong.
I just don't choose. I just go both. I just live with both.
I just do whatever makes sense for them. I try to dissect, obviously, and then, like, try to come to the most rational and reasonable decision. But also, the answer also has to make sense with by validating the feelings. Like, I'm having these feelings for real.
I just want to live in a world. This is not the world we live in. I just want to live in a world where I can tell someone how I feel. This would be so much better with the type of, like, projective criticism we were talking about. If you just tell me how I'm making you feel, and, you know, like just straight up, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I am, like, that could be you, it could be me, but just, like, that's the fact of how I'm making you feel. And I want to live in a world where I could just tell people, like, like, if I'm telling you right now, like, what you are saying is, like, freaking me the fuck out. And that does not mean that you're doing something wrong, like, but that is how I feel, and so I think it's valuable and important. So, and if we had, I believe that in a world where we just do that, like, we would be, the amount of what I think you are defining, I don't like this type of thinking, but what you're defining is kind of like irrational, like your irrational emotions. I think that those unhealthy, maybe like misattributed emotions will happen less because we will be more self-aware and aware of others.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think I said this, I don't know where, but I said ideally I'd love to live in a world where, like, people could just say, oh, I did this action. And we go, like, okay, now what? Versus this fear of saying it out loud or this fear of expressing a thing. Like, I wish we could just, I mean, obviously, I curated a bubble where that's possible with one other person because I've never been able to do it with all people all the time. It takes a lot of seeing a person and trusting a person and knowing their language and the nuances of that person, I think, to do it, which is why I think, like, you have to see the whole part of people. Like, I can do it with my husband, which is why I chose to do life with him. So we could go throughout life being able to do this.
You can just do it, but they might hate you.
Well, that comes down to not seeing, right? Because, or not trusting, or not understanding, which is why I say, like, I can't see all people. Because if I could see all people in all ways, which I don't think is possible, we could have this connection that would be non-threatening. Because, like, I have no ill intent, bro. I'm not going to hurt you. I am never going to lie about you. I do not slander people. I never lie about people, ever. It's, like, very important to me that I never do that. But for a person to really believe that, they would have to see me and understand me. Therefore, when I make a statement that to them is shocking, they'd have to be like, Brittany's not lying. So what is she saying? But you cannot do that with most people, right?
You have to prove it first, or do you think you can prove it by doing it? Because I think the most, because, like, I don't like if you prove it to somebody by doing it and them being like, what the fuck, I don't know what's going on, but then they realize, like, actually this is not a malicious thing and this is not a dangerous thing. They've learned that within themselves. But if you convince them that it's okay before you do it, they haven't learned anything. You're just completely, like, baby step, like walking them, like, this foot here, foot here, the whole thing. So they actually haven't grown.
Yeah, well, so obviously they would be learning the skill within themselves to tell the character of a person and then to judge, like, the values of that person and the consistency of their character to those values. So they're learning something to, like I always say, I didn't choose my husband as my husband because I trusted him. I did it because I trusted me to choose him. And he trusted himself to choose me. He didn't trust me. We're not trusting each other. We're trusting ourselves to understand that person enough to pick them. Which is kind of saying the same thing, but it's putting the responsibility on us. And I think other people put the responsibility on other people. To know their feelings, to know their intention, to know their values, instead of saying, do you trust yourself to judge the character of this person?
Interesting.
Even if you're going to be wrong. Like, I was so wrong about Max. I pegged Max for a very open-minded, curious, sex-positive, thoughtful, excited, like, artist who wanted to do interesting, fun, collaborative things. No. When he came to talk to me for that first time, I was completely confused.
I think he really likes you.
I'm sure he does. I'm very likable.
Is that shocking to you, though?
No, I'm very likable. Everyone loves me. That's why they hate me so much. They all love me.
What does that mean?
It's because they see something in me that makes them go, like, what the fuck is this? They wouldn't talk to me unless there's a part of me that they like. That's just what I believe. I believe that's so hard. Because, like, why? I could never imagine. Maybe that's my autism. I could never imagine talking to anyone that I didn't like a part of.
I think that you have a lot more in common with Max than you realize. But I think a lot. You know, you open your mouth a little bit. But the thing is, I think that you get away with some of the stuff that he does just because you're a woman. And you're, like, being a woman makes you because a lot of what he does in his philosophy is very intimidating. And so just by being a woman, people are, like, less intimidated, and it makes you look like a really strong, like empowered woman too. So, like, you get, like, kind of it's almost like a boost, you know?
Depends on the bubble. In other bubbles, when people hate me because they don't trust me because I'm too harsh and aggressive as a woman.
Yeah, true.
You can't win, buddy. You can't win. Right? So Max and I thought, listen, do you know what ideal moment I had for me and Max? I even told my friends. I was like, bro, I met this guy named Max on the internet. I think he's going to do a great video film with me. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, I have a film I want to do with him where it's like, I have a thing for, like, pain tolerance. So I play slapping games with my brothers. We play competition games with, like, working out. We're into, like, who's the stronger person. So I wanted to do a video of me and Max doing a slapping competition. And, like, to see who, like, how it felt to, like, slap each other. but it was non-sexual, not sexual at all. Like it had to be somebody who
he wouldn't let you say that one. He would
no,
say,
so again, like, yeah, that's the problem. Like if you always see everything as sexual, like I don't know how to relate to you because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Have you never done...
I did that as one of my one of my paintings for college. I did we had to do a diptych, so I did 2 paintings of this girl that I was friends with and had a crush on. Not the one that I was talking about in that other time. Anyway,
I remember.
So the first one, I made her laugh, and then after that, I slapped her across the face. And so I took both of those pictures side by side and painted them both.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something really, like, again, I practice like non-sexual, masochistic, BDSM, but also in my vanilla life, because I have a vanilla life. Obviously, I'm doing things that are competition-based, like slapping competitions. I'm pretty sure I could win all of them. That's a joke. I cannot beat those men. Those men are... Have you ever seen a slapping competition? Those men are brutal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, brutal. But there's something in me that wishes my body could withstand it. But I can't.
I wish... I've wanted this for a long time. I wish that I could join a woman's... roller derby? I wish I could join women's roller derby and just... You know, I wouldn't want to like transition or anything, just be me. And
yeah. Well, I'm telling you, like that's the thing about the internet that's so funny about these bubbles, because like I'll see people review my work and I'm like, damn, I have no idea what you're talking about. But they're like, Brittany knows this. I was like, girl, I never heard anything you've ever said. Like, I don't even know what you are literally saying. But like the assumption that we all say words the same or words mean everything the same is why I think we do confuse people, that we project ourselves into them. I looked at Max and thought, oh, he's making art and he's making porn art. And like, oh, like we're doing the same thing. And then I was like, we are not doing the same thing. I'm so sorry. My bad.
You have some differences, but I don't see how you can't. Like
I'm incredibly sex positive. I think the body is neutral and beautiful. I've done parades with families. I think nudity is neutral. Look, I think sexualizing everything sucks. Like I can't. His vibe, he's so sex negative, bro. He's shameful.
He's not, though.
I have no shame when it comes to sex. Zero. I feel like he has tons.
He's not, okay, I mean, okay, fuck. Maybe I'm talking for myself, but I feel like everything is sexual, but doesn't mean I'm shameful.
Why is everything sexual? How is that possible? See, I've lived too many lives. I've been to too many events, too many situations where I know life is not very sexual. I would argue life is not very sexual. It's probably less sexual than everyone thinks it is, especially in neurodivergent circles. It's not. It's not as sexual as people make it out to be.
I mean, yeah, but like, I'm not always thinking about sex all the time, but sure. I could think about anything in a sexual way.
I could think of anything in a sexual way. But I also think most of the things that people think are sexual are like so neutral to some of us that our brains are just not going there.
Okay, but
you know what I mean?
But the human body, I think. Look at this. So I think that.
But whose human body, Smeth?
Hold on.
Whose human body?
Grandma. Yeah, I think that our bodies are like I'm kind of pro nudism. Like I wouldn't advocate for like a switch. Just like that would be bad for everybody. The rape and stuff. If you didn't change
Statistics show that you're not more likely to get raped if you're sexually promiscuous than if you're not.
No, I just mean if we had like nudism, like everybody, like if we just if we got rid of like laws against wearing clothes and then random people just started going around naked, it probably would cause a little bit of chaos. Anyway.
Sure.
Anyway, I am pro nudism as like an idea. But I also think that your genitals just are sexual. Like I think that like seeing
period.
Like you can so in a nudist world where you're just hanging out and being naked around each other doesn't mean you always want to fuck. But if you stare at someone's genitals, like yeah. I mean, but like that doesn't mean that like it has to be a sexual moment all the time. But there is always like sexual tension, like very like small amounts, and I just think that is always like part of our brain. Like it's not like a lot.
Yeah, I just can't. I used to think that way until I started hanging out with nudist groups, and then I was like, oh damn, like you forget people are even naked, bro. Like you don't care. Like some people have different struggles with it on a spectrum, But I just know from lived experience, though anecdotal, that just isn't true. And
Okay.
lots of us are having different. Yeah, but I have the lived experience of knowing it's not true. You only have the lived experience of knowing it is true. But you haven't met or haven't done or haven't read the books or haven't experienced, so you haven't hit that bubble yet, right?
Well,
Have you literally wait, in Seattle, there is a family event that happens every year where like families and kids are there and people are naked. Why do you think that's happening? Because everyone's thinking about sex?
No, so I think in the nudist world, like being pro-nudism means that you are accepting that there are kids naked too.
It's not just a nudist event; it's a public Seattle event. Anyone can come. Most of them not nudist.
Sure, yeah, but I'm saying philosophically, it's a nudist event. Like
sure.
it's
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's pro body because it's saying the body is neutral.
That doesn't mean that like people are expected to be like fucking kids and shit. Like I'm not saying just because everybody's naked that means like you're expected to look at a kid and think you're like you want to fuck them or like that's okay or something. I just think that.
Wait. My chat asked this question. I saw it just now, really quickly. Have you ever sat around with your partner naked? Is it always sexual? Have you ever just been like naked with your partner?
I have, but I have trouble finding partners that are. I haven't done a lot of finding partners through like kink type things or anything. So
what does that have to do with it?
I don't know. I just find partners like that sex tends to be like I am way more exploratory and like nudity, just being naked together, that's something that needs to be most of them I think every partner that I've ever had was a victim of sexual abuse at some point, and that causes a lot of limitations, especially since I'm not like a rapist, so and I'm end up being very taking like a big step back it's like almost in like the like I'm like often like the first guy to not like be that guy, and that means that sex is now like impossible because the only thing that you're used to is guys being really aggressive and stuff like that. And
sure, okay, so, that's a little tough.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's interesting. And I just want to say for my audience and people listening, like being naked with your partner has nothing to do with kink, right? Being naked with your partner has to do with trust,
I'm just saying body
love,
positivity
and
body
positivity. I'm only saying this because I've recently been criticized on the internet about people who don't know what kink is. Like kink is very specific. BDSM is very specific. Like these things are
I'm not saying it's a kink.
Sexual, but like
I'm not saying it could be a kink, but
it could be. But like I'm talking about
I want a relationship where I can just be jerking off, and then my partner enters the room, and it's no big deal, and then they just get whatever they need. But I've never had a relationship like that, and it seems like really nice, but never had a relationship like that.
Yeah. So like obviously, I would say that comes from sex repression, because the world is sex repressed, but also we're not neutral about bodies. Like I've done that. That's all my relationships. You just described all my relationships. But it is
sexual though. So your partner walks in when you're masturbating. It's like, it is sexual, but you're not,
well,
it's sexual, but it's not like you are giving them permission to have a sexual experience with you, or like, it's just like, there are still boundaries. So like, I remember talking to somebody. They said that they don't feel about the whole masturbating like near each other and without it being a big deal. And they said that anytime that they had anything like that, then the guy would always assume that or think that, oh, well, why don't I help? Why don't I get involved? And that is like, so now it's just not going to happen anymore because I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, I don't think that nudity is a breach of boundaries. Boundaries still exist when there is nudity, but that doesn't mean that there's no sexual tension or anything. If you're going to be comfortable to masturbate around each other, the sexuality exists, but I think
do you have siblings?
I don't.
Oh, okay. I've been naked in front of my sister 1,000 times. We've gone to bathhouses together for women. Like, is there supposed to be sexual tension there that I'm confused about? Like,
I don't know.
No, the answer is no, Smeth. The answer is no.
I don't know.
Nudity can be neutral. Have you ever been naked with family members? Like, I just feel like
it's
really strange for me like I feel like there's trauma in so many Western communities.
It's weird. I mean, but I'm also comfortable with it. Like I say, it's weird, but it's not like I'm like
Yeah.
I've like carried my mom like after like surgeries and stuff like naked from like the toilet
Yeah.
to like
See, that's
whatever.
like loving and vulnerable, and like
Yeah,
you're
but that
caring for her.
vulnerability is like it is weird in that way too, and like I'm accepting of it and okay to do that. I have in my childhood felt the sexual gaze of my mom, and I did not feel though that she was making it my problem. I was aware of it sometimes though.
Are you I've never had that experience. I don't even know how to relate to that. Tell me about that. Like, what is that like? How do you know it's happening? How do you know it's not your child brain confusing something? Or maybe it is. Like, you would know. Like, I'm not discounting you, but I just don't have any relationship
It might
to that.
be. It's something I'm still unpacking. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it so much right now.
That's fair. Okay, so do you want to switch over back to like Max and your relationship there, or how are you doing on spoons?
I'm fine on spoons.
Okay, good. I guess now that we're talking,
the thing with me is spoons is if I start people pleasing, my spoons like dwindle because that is exhausting. But if I'm talking about myself or whatever, like I can just go on forever, and it's almost like I've discovered this endless well within me.
Well, then I am curious then. I'm mostly, okay, so this whole conversation leading up to now is me trying to figure out your brain, but also how your lived experience informs like everything you're doing now.
I have been, so some similarity that I have with Max is I have worked as a nude model.
Yeah, you told me that last time in an art school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt sexual.
Honestly, that's amazing. It is sexual?
It felt sexual. They don't,
Interesting.
they're not allowed to admit it, but it does feel it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that's if you're willing to understand that that's like a specific experience for a specific category of people. Like lots of people do that and don't feel that.
I think they're lying to themselves.
I think it's weird to think everyone's having your lived experience.
No, I just think that, I don't think that they're experiencing it like that. I just think it exists without them being very experiencing as it being very big part of their experience. When you are, if I'm modeling for a sculpting class and you're taking the time to specifically sculpt my dick, yeah. Also,
I just don't feel like there's.
I
go
did
ahead.
some modeling for just some like house parties and some like a group that we went to like each other's houses and like modeled and stuff. And I would do like poses where like, I remember one where I took my belt and I like put it around my neck and I like held it like that. And then people are like, oh, I love that. Okay, I wonder why. I wonder why you love that one.
Well, it evokes a lot of emotions, right? It evokes a lot of like life and death thoughts and like.
I guess.
Like okay, that's the thing. But it's something about hot is also not sexual.
I don't know. How about the one where I was like laying on my side and I had and I rested like one of those long like glasses of like champagne, and I put that on my hip and I was laying on my side and I was like, how about this? And they're like, okay, but if you fucking spill it, you're gonna be in so much trouble. And then and that became a very very sexually charged moment, I thought, especially because of the threat too, and that made it drawing for everybody a little, but that was part of the fun.
I will say it's very valid to have a sexual experience, and you can only practice it sexually. That's valid. I'm just saying it's not the only way to practice it.
I was talking to my friend Connor the other night, and we're talking about he loves the game Death Stranding, and it's a very polarized game. Some people hate it, some people love it, and he was saying that we're talking about convincing people of things, and he was saying it's not like I'm going to go to people that don't like it and then try to convince them that their 50 hours of play time they actually loved it, even though they think they didn't. Sure. But I think that you could tell somebody that they, like you could teach somebody who wanted to be taught how to play it and how to think about it to enjoy it. And that it doesn't mean that that isn't there. They just aren't focused on that, or that isn't something they're accessing when they're engaging. But it doesn't mean that that part of them doesn't exist. And that's, yeah, I think that most of the time people are lying about things not being sexual.
I think you're creating a worldview where people don't get to exist now. You formed a bubble where people's real experiences don't get to exist. And I'm saying your experience is real, but so are other people's.
I think it's on the same level of, like, you are talking to a black person and then you say that you don't see race. Like, I think that's a lie. You do see that they're black.
Sure.
So I think it's like you're like a heterosexual man talking to a heterosexual woman, and like it's like I didn't notice you have a vagina. It's like, no, you noticed.
I think, but like noticing a vagina doesn't mean anything automatically. I think for some people it does, and for some people it doesn't mean anything. It's just a vagina. Like, oh, there's another vagina.
Okay, well, I believe that the people that say it doesn't mean anything, it's not because I think that they are playing Death Stranding for 50 hours and they are not focused on the things that are enjoyable about it. But like, so what I'm saying is that exists. They're just not looking at it.
Yeah,
they're looking away from it.
Right, but I'm saying like to think that way is also my worldview is offering multiple options for multiple people to exist, and yours is only offering one. And I'm saying, though that's true for some people, it is not accurate to the lived experience of many people. And again, you're doing the discounting because you're unable to imagine someone different could exist with a different lived experience.
I think that they exist. I just believe that their experience is I don't know if the right word, because usually the word pathology refers to like a negative thing, but that's not what I mean. But I'm just saying, like, I believe that their experience is the way they describe it, but it manifests that way from a psychological place, or it's pathological. It's a pathological way of getting from point A to point B, and I think that the sexuality exists within there.
I just think sexuality is so diverse amongst the humans as a species that it's obviously clear that people are asexual and demi, and people are having lived experiences that some people don't have sex drives. Some people don't even have an interest in sex. Some of us have a lived experience with our bodies where it doesn't even feel like we're connected to them. Not everyone identifies with their bodies. Some people just identify with their mental.
But people that don't identify with their bodies, I think that's not, like, they're not living in reality, because you are your body.
Oh, I totally disagree. Absolute disagree. I think you're many parts. Like, I think I'm my consciousness, like my soul. I think I'm my brain. I think I'm my body, and I think I'm the things that happen to those things.
I think,
but I'm not
one thing.
That some people believe that. Some people are having that experience. I think that it's clear they are not the same thing to me and many people who feel that way. But I can understand how that is the reality some people feel like they're experiencing, because it's about perception. You are your perception. So your perception limits you in all ways. I'm limited in ways, like we're all limited. So your perception perceives it that way. Mine doesn't.
I mean, I do agree with that. But I theorize that the separation, the compartmentalization of those things is sort of a dissociative way of thinking.
Why?
Because I think to not identify with your body is to dissociate from it. Because,
do you mean identify purely? Like, I think it's a balance between all the things that are connecting.
I think it's not like we don't, like, there are tons of moments where I'm not thinking about my body, and in those moments, I guess definitionally I am dissociated from my body. But I don't define myself as that. I still think that I was always in my body the whole time. And I always was my body. And if something was happening to my body, would it affect that thing that I thought I was when I didn't even realize I was my body? Like, if you put my hand, and I'm dreaming, you put my hand in warm water and it makes me piss myself. It's because my dream state, whatever it was, that wasn't even associated with my body at all, actually was my body the whole time.
Yeah, I could see that perception. I think I think it's hard I think we're ships, and I'm a soul on my ship, and what happens to my ship is happening separate from what's happening to me, even though it is happening to me. That's the whole. It's not happening to me like my core. Like, I'm not my legs. If I lose my legs, like, I didn't lose me. I'm still a whole Brittany.
I think you're still Brittany. You're still the whole Brittany that exists.
Because my consciousness is...
Compared to the Brittany that existed then, you would be less because you have less legs, right?
I don't know. I don't consider my body a representation of my consciousness. I think this is just the thing that holds it. And my brain is like the computer that works like the consciousness, right? Like my brain too, like if I'm in a coma, then like I'm still there, but like my body isn't processing it enough to explain it to people maybe, or like my husband and I talk about this all the time. Like, what if I'm in a coma, or what if I have Alzheimer's? Like, I'm still somewhere there, but like my brain is doing something different right now. But some people believe when you have Alzheimer's, you're no longer yourself, you're like somebody different. But I don't believe that.
I think that the Brittany that you're talking about, like, so body, legs, no legs, the Brittany label, the Brittany identity, I think that exists within a social web of understanding, and you still exist within the social web the same way, but the social web is a mythology that we've all created. I think all identity is like a mythology, all hierarchy that we've created. It's all mythology. It doesn't mean it's not useful. It doesn't mean it's not very real to us, but it's not the bare bones reality.
What would be the bare bones reality?
You're just a body, you're just some meat, you know? Your thoughts are all your brain, you know? And your brain's your body. And then we don't usually engage on that level. We usually engage on the level of this social web that we're connected with all these other people. And that's the ideology we're talking about here. This is something that Max disagrees with you on, and I also disagree with you on, but it's because of the thing I was talking about earlier. And he's disengaged from that because he's trying to not be enmeshed with that web. He doesn't, and I see that too, and I see the benefits of that because I can relate. But I feel like he has a lot of spite towards that web too, because he's like sort of resentful of it a bit too or something. Whereas I'm talking to you about it in a way where I'm not, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just don't really understand the idea that like you, like my brain and my heart are different. My body is different. My body is like a hollow vessel that holds all my organs, and it functions as a ship to hold my consciousness. And that consciousness is like having a relationship with its reality and knowing like, oh, my brain is doing this and my body's doing this. You could call it whatever. I think it's all possibly the same, but with different words, right? Like prayers, meditation is tarot, is everything. Like everything is just everything. But ultimately we put our words, our definitions to things because that's how our perception is had. Like that's what our perception is saying to us. And so we're coming to these conclusions. I don't think we have access to objective truth. I don't believe in objective morality. I think everything is like this construct, right?
I agree with that.
So, but like we're all having different experiences, and I think some humans have more access because of like their choice to do it, to have this experience with the body that makes everything not necessarily sexual, versus some people don't ever get to access that because they don't ever go on that journey. But I do think it's a journey you can go on. But I think, again, depending on the person you are and the tools you've been given, you might not be able to access it without first dismantling things that were put into your brain, like through trauma, like that memory of your mother, like not to bring it up, but like that is different than someone else's experience who doesn't have that. Like that's a tool in a way that you have that someone doesn't have.
That theory, especially considering I said that does make sense. But I also have the same opposite theory about you, or like anybody that's saying that everything is not necessarily sexual. I think that what makes things non-sexual is especially trauma.
I think it's about recognizing Well, sexual is very specific to me. Maybe that's it too. Sexual means something to me. Like sexual like means something to me. When people say like, "Oh, you're making it sexual," like that means something to me very specific. So in my brain, I'm like, "How could you even make this
I
sexual?"
think
Like I don't even know how
that's
to
what
do
it
it.
is. I think that might be what it is. Because when I say sexual, I think I might be defining it in a much more broad way,
Hmm.
and um, I think it's healthy to do that.
Is it kind of like when girls, like the girls and I, like the girls, gays, and theys, like when we say like we want to be slutty all around each other, it's not sexual, and then guys are like, "What the fuck? What does that even mean? Your tits are out." Like I mean,
But the
literally, it's
guys
not
won't admit.
sexual.
No, but the guys won't admit that when they're fucking in the locker room, like swatting each other with the rolled up fucking. That's sexual too. If you're gonna say that about the women, it's also true that you're
Yeah.
fucking jerking off with your bros.
Yeah, I think like things are so much more than they are, and people don't allow themselves to admit it because they don't want to have to then ask themselves what something means. And I think again, I'm just curious about like, oh, what does that mean? Ooh, what does that mean? Like, what is it? If I know more answers to who I am, like I have a very short time on Earth and then we die. It's like I would love to know what that means. But I think I also have this great lived experience where like I have been in non-sexual situations enough in my life, around nudist situations. I've helped my friend die, like during cancer. I've had to take him to the bathroom and clean his body. And I know the differences between knowing when something feels sexual and it doesn't. And bro, like, there's not even room for the sexuality. But also, like, why would it even need to be there? It's not the right context, right?
Just thought of one.
Mm-hmm.
When my dog, my little Boston Terrier, has been dead for over a year now, when he was in his late life, he would cuddle with me and he'd be sleeping, but at night his rectum would prolapse and I would push it back in, and it's just routine. I would just push it back in, and he would look at me with this face. He's like, you're pushing my rectum in my fucking asshole. And
Because he was dying?
no, his just asshole didn't work anymore.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, he could shit, and it was just that just happened at night. He was fine. He died because he had brain tumors.
Oh, damn.
Anyway, that was sexual.
Yeah, that's weird. I think that's interesting. I
I don't think neither of us was getting off on it, but that was definitely the reason it's weird to it's weird to do. It's a weird, like a mildly like, okay, I'm touching your rectum and pushing it back into you, and he felt weird about it, and neither of us was enjoying it, but that was because it was sexual.
Yeah, sexual to me means something very specific. Like, it doesn't fall into this category. Like,
Right,
I
but
couldn't even imagine, like...
my definition of sexual encompasses things that are uncomfortable and negative, and we don't want them to be what we call sexual. But I think that they're uncomfortable because they actually are sexual.
Well, I just think, like... I don't think they're always uncomfortable.
Sure. When someone
like, maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is, like, I'm not very uncomfortable
when someone's
very
pushing
often.
your rectum into your body, you know...
I'm gonna be real. I think women have a different experience in life, because for us, we're like, so it's just a butt. Push it in, bro. Gotta get shit done. Let's go.
Yeah, but I think that women have to have that attitude because we force women to be in a certain role in the sexual dynamic between men and women. Like,
I just think like humans are so much more nuanced than everything being sexual.
I'm not saying
like,
it's not nuanced.
Yeah, but the base of a human isn't necessarily always their sexuality. You're limiting humans down to this like thing that we are proving time and time again isn't universally experienced. But you're saying even subconsciously it is, and I'm saying, yeah, but what if it's not?
I'm even saying consciously it is experienced. It's just that we don't want to define that experience as sexual because it makes us freak out. Like, it's like,
no,
I don't want to call
I'm
that
saying
sexual.
In a sex positive space, you would be able to say out loud, this doesn't feel sexual, this does. Like, I don't think it's always sexual. I think to say it is always sexual is a sex repressed thought, because it's not allowing you to experience intimacy without sex. Intimacy can be non-sexual.
Sure. Yeah,
you can still feel close and vulnerable, and it doesn't have to be sexual. But to add the sexuality element to it, I think is just so dishonest.
No, I think it is sexual, but that doesn't have to be paid attention to. Like, you can be spooning, naked, and have that not be as you're defining, have that not be
Mm-hmm.
sexual, but still be as I'm defining, still it is sexual. But when I define it as sexual, I think that gives me a room to be like, okay, this is there. We could make this more sexual, but we're choosing to focus on just being close in this moment. And that, because I want to acknowledge it so that I can acknowledge the choice in what we're choosing to focus on, so that it almost helps compartmentalize easier, you know?
Yeah, it's my Discord saying, whatever bubble this is, it's strange to me. It's like a very like sex repressed thing
It's not
to me.
repressed.
It is, because you're discounting lived experiences by people that are not like you, and you're saying we're all the same, and I'm saying impossible, improbable. Like, no.
I'm just defining it different. I'm just defining
Yeah,
sexuality different.
that's the dilemma, is like you're expressing something that like insinuates like a goal or an energy that doesn't make sense. Like when people don't think I can platonically shower with friends, like I don't even understand how you can't think that's possible.
I think that by your definition, you are platonically showering with friends, and by my definition, you're not.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I just like, why do you want to limit yourself to only thinking you can have one experience?
No,
Because like,
it's not one
sex is on
experience.
my
No,
mind,
it's not one experience.
but
I think
it's a complete. If you're thinking about it, you're not having the same experience.
I am saying, okay, well, I do think that acknowledging it does change it a little bit. But I think that acknowledgement, what I'm defining as an acknowledgement, I think that is healthy, because it means that there is, I think that it's like, there's a Zizek joke that's kind of funny. He talks about meeting up with a woman to have an intellectual, intimate conversation. She brings a fleshlight, or she brings a dildo and he brings a fleshlight, and they both put them there on and they just put them into each other, and then that's there, and now we can focus on talking and being close, that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think the everything is sex attitude should be, is like you're trying to say everything's sex so that you can kind of separate it.
Yeah, I just think like that's what's so beautiful about the world, is like I would stay away from people who think like this, because I would feel like very on edge the whole time, because I'm like, we're not communicating clearly. Now you are a threat.
Okay,
but not really.
Okay, so can I give
bit of a yeah.
So we are naked together, okay? Is this okay,
Okay.
if hypothetical?
Sure.
Okay, and so we're taking a shower and you don't want it to be sexual, and I'm like, it's
Okay.
sexual. And so
then I wouldn't with you, right? Because you wouldn't be able to have the shower with me in a way that's neutral.
And it would make me uncomfortable that you're saying it's not too, because for me to feel like it's not, I would want you to admit that it is.
Right. So I'm saying both are valid, but that's why we have to know who we're with. Like, that's why I read Max so wrong, because I thought he was neutral about sexuality or about sex, or I thought he could be non-sexual in his slapping. Like, when I read the room wrong, when I say like slapping isn't kinky, slapping can be kinky, but slapping can also be about like power or challenge. It could be like when I slap my brothers, are we being kinky? Like, everyone's so Freud over here.
Well, here's the
Everybody
thing.
relax,
Here's the thing. Not only does I think what I said apply, probably, I don't know, maybe he'd disagree, but I think what I said applies to him. But on top of that, this is just a vibes thing. I don't, maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but
Sure.
I just don't, I think that he would make it more sexual, because he doesn't want to just, he doesn't want to also just put it aside. He'd be like, I'm only slapping you.
And don't get me wrong, I heavily flirted with Max, because like I flirt with everyone in a gay way. And then I realized I'm coming into a very heterosexual space. Like, even though people in the space call themselves bisexual, this is the straightest space I have ever been in, which means like flirting is seen as like the end all be all, versus in my spaces, like if you're not flirting, like, are you mad at me? Like, what's happening? Because like flirting is supposed to be fun and neutral and like exciting, but also like it's about banter. It's not supposed to be real either. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I realized, like, for me, I've been in such neutralized spaces, sex positive spaces, that like sex and talking about sex is neutral. It's like talking about butter, or like being flirty. It doesn't mean anything. It's just about banter, or like, until you negotiate, everything is just for fun. So even like slapping someone, that's like for fun. What do you mean? It's horseplay or horsing around, or you're being silly. Like, nothing is anything. But I think in certain spaces or certain bubbles around the world, it has to mean something, and which is valid, and like it's cultural, and I'm here for it. But I think that's why you have to know the differences. So yeah, like I would not feel comfortable showering with you, because it means we're coming from this in a different perspective, like, which is valid. Like, it's fine. I'm not saying you're a bad person.
I'd feel
I'm saying we might end up, well, we might miscommunicate, which means something bad might happen, right? Like if we miscommunicate, something might accidentally happen that doesn't need to happen, right?
Yeah.
So we might put ourselves in a bad situation versus saying like, oh, Smith, like, are you comfortable with this? And if you're like, actually, I can't help but like see this as sexual, I'd be like, no problem. Like not going to be a thing. Like when I invite all the queer girls together to go to a bathhouse, which as I did one time for a party, we're not all coming there to be sexual. We're coming there to be in a bathhouse and chill and like zen out and meditate. So I can understand how like that might seem strange to people, but like you can imagine that's just, it's so neutral. We're bringing our books and we're, our essential oils, and we're not thinking about like you're insinuating that it's going to be sexual.
Turning pages. You're just
you know what I mean?
Up that, yeah.
Yes. So again, it's like for me, I have such a different lived experience. I've had to pop these bubbles myself, right? Like as a virginal person going to my first BDSM party in a nudist situation where I was the only clothed person, I had to like pop these bubbles and realize like, oh, the nudity is neutral. Not to all people there. Not to all the people there. Some people are like you, but for a lot of the people there,
I just think that calling it neutral is like a social, like we're going to say that this isn't sexual because, and I think that has utility, and I think that people like buy into it. It's like psychologically, but I
think some people do. Like some people have to tell themselves like, don't get a hard on right now, don't get wet. But I just like sit there and I don't even think about it. I'm like, who cares, bro? I'm not into you. I'm not thinking about you sexually. You're not even in the sexual context for me.
I think like, telling yourself not to get a hard on is probably the worst way to not get a hard on. Probably, I would.
Well, I'm just saying some people will have that struggle. That's why in sex positive communities we don't shame people for getting hard ons. We're just like, excuse yourself to the bathroom. We get it. It's a body. You're gonna do stuff. No problem. Like we're not shaming you. We're like, it's your body. It's fine. But like, be appropriate with it until you learn to really neutralize yourself. Or you're somebody like me who like won't even process you as a sexual option unless I'm literally one, attracted to you, or two, the context makes sense. Like I'm very specific. Or what about if you're demi, or what if you're asexual, or what if you're like, I just think so many people are having different experiences. You know what I mean? Like I just don't think the sexual element could possibly be there all the time when I don't have that experience. I know myself so well, Smith. I spent all my life being introspective, and you think I wouldn't know and wouldn't admit to you if I was finding every situation sexual? Like why would
part of it's a definitional thing too.
Sure. Yeah. Like somebody might say it's like the intention versus the like thoughtful. Like for me, I just like ask myself like, am I even having this thought? Like, and I do, by the way.
Hold on. Sexual in this, the way that I'm defining it, is kind of like kinetic energy. A ball held very high above your head has very like high kinetic energy. You can let go of the ball and it falls to the ground. The higher you hold the ball, the more stored kinetic energy. And I think that's the same way with sexuality, but doesn't mean the ball is dropping. I think your definition of sexuality is the ball is dropping, but my definition of sexuality is the ball is high. The ball has that potentiality.
Yeah, I just think like it sets into motion again. Like, are you saying, I just don't think this could be, I think it's obviously like incest happens, right? So I'm not saying like, oh my God, are you saying all family members are into each other? Obviously, sometimes family members can be like wanting to be with each other. We read those stories on Reddit all the time, right? I don't think that's weird in terms of like a human phenomenon. But I think to say that all family members are always thinking that, or it's always in the room, is kind of like
the potentiality is there.
Well, the potentiality is there for people it's there for.
Sure.
But it can't be there for all people.
I don't agree. I just don't agree.
Yeah. I just don't think 8 billion people are having the same lived experience.
I don't think asexual is a thing either.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Oh.
I think it comes from like trauma and stuff. Like,
oh, that's so interesting. You think biological creatures as like organisms that have evolved over millions and millions of years didn't have some anomalies in the evolution?
I think that's possible, but I just think that I've seen the people that I've seen that are asexual, I think are
I think that's true. I have met a lot. Yeah,
they don't want to be sexual in the way that the society wants them to be sexual, and so it's traumatic, and they don't want to be part of it. And
it's true. I've seen those people too. That's the problem. Same with non-binary. It's like I've seen those people that are like non-binary in a way that pisses me off, and then I've met people that I'm like, oh, you're authentically having like a real experience, and those are the people that I'm focused on. because I'm like, oh, this is like a real experience. Cool. Like someone gets to live this reality, because not everyone has access to it. Same with asexual. Like when I meet a real person experiencing like an asexual relationship, that I'm like, oh, this is very unique and cool and awesome, but also not, because no one's special, but also cool. Like you're the anomaly in the evolutionary process. That's why I'm open to people changing labels every 2 seconds. I don't give a fuck. Change it as many times as you need until you find the right answer. That's why I'm like, don't get a diagnosis to have a label, get a diagnosis to know yourself more. But it's fine if you use them temporarily. It's fine if you identify as asexual because you have trauma. But also, I think there really is an asexual anomaly that happens in the evolutionary process. Yeah, I'm very excited by that reality. That like, oh, not everyone's.
I think you could have like a hormone thing. Like you could have no hormones or something like that, or
well, kind of maybe, but like also kind of same thing. Like in a way, like you're living. I remember with my dad, I came out. My dad's like, "Can you please go check if you have too much testosterone and that's why you're queer?" And I was like, "Okay." And I went and the doctor was like, I can't test if you're gay. I was like, just do the test so my dad can chill. Obviously, I came back perfectly normal. But my dad was like, this isn't it. What happened? Was it the liberal media? And I was like sitting there like, oh my God. Like people don't want to believe people's experiences because it so contradicts their own bubble. But I'm saying,
gay.
Yeah, I'm saying pop the bubbles and realize not everyone's the same, bros. People are having real experiences outside of your perception.
It was him.
He asked me that. You know what he asked me? He goes, did you end up gay because I raised you as a boy? And I was like, okay, first of all, news to me. I thought you were raising me as a person. But like, I get what he's saying. He's worried that he socialized me into being queer, which is like a very interesting possibility. But no, if he could have socialized me into being queer, he should have socialized me into being a better Catholic, which also didn't work.
Well, he accidentally socialized you into being like, so it sounds like from what you've told me, is this okay for me to do? Like psychoanalyze? Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like in some ways you had a healthy childhood, and it sounds like he was there. He had good boundaries, and he, from what you've said, he had let you be a kid, kind of in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm imagining is so him letting you do that, but also having these concerns about you being queer and wondering why that is, and you doing your job, being a teenager, like being rebellious, and him being very permissive of that rebelliousness, and you're very, you are genuinely permissive. Doing your job, right? And the way he was you did the appropriate response to exactly what he did.
I just think some people are gay, bro.
I think everybody's gay.
Yeah, I think everyone's probably bisexual or pansexual, but like gay, and straight probably exist. And I don't think having gay sex makes you gay. I think that's so reductive.
So in the same way, I think that I think everybody's gay. Everybody's bi, and I think that if you don't think that you're bi, it's just like saying you don't think that like showering with someone is somewhat sexual. It's the same.
I just think people are unique, and I believe in I think they're all one of a kind, but I don't think they're special. So I don't think anyone's having like an original thought or original experience. But I do think we're talking about experiences in ways we've never had before, which allows people to now all come out. But they've always existed. Like trans people have always existed. Now we're just talking about them in a different context. And like some people identify as trans who aren't, and some people identify as cis who aren't.
Why did this conversation fail for Max? Why did Max tried to have this conversation with you, and it broke down into...
He accused me of being a cult leader. So bad faith. Everyone in this space is so fucking bad faith and up their own assholes.
I have said that you are culty a little bit, but like...
Being culty is not the same as being a cult leader. And only cult... But you're on my Discord, aren't you now? You should go look at it. Does it feel culty to you?
I haven't looked at it, but...
See? Nobody ever looks into me. They always... Yes.
I'm theorizing that he did to you, like he went really hard into trying to force conflict that you would have had, like regardless, and you would have probably went there.
Yeah, I think Max was really bad at communicating and didn't put down boundaries, and also I'm pretty neurodivergent, so even the way we're miscommunicating could be a lot of that, or like could be cultural, or words mean totally different things to me than other people. And I know other people think everyone is the same, but we really aren't all raised the same. And I think this space and like forgets that so hard. Like
I think this is what I think. I think that he thought you would be like talking to everyone else he had already talked to so far in his career, and then like thought he had to pry conflict out of you because it's something he needs so desperately. And so I think like you were trying to give it to him, and he was like trying to like grabbing it with pliers out of your fucking mouth, you know what I mean, while you're trying to give it to him. And then it's like, what the fuck is going on here, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that the way that I think people are good, and I'm used to people being very kind and thoughtful. So when I come to in space where like people aren't being that, I'm like very confused. But also I'm used to being very critical as well. I grew up Middle Eastern. We're very loving, critical people. We're incredibly loving. We will give a homeless man the shirt off our backs. We will buy them dinner, and we will still go home and be like, I can't believe they're homeless. You know, because like that's how we are. We love you, but also, why are you fat? We love you, but also, why don't you have a job? You know what I mean? Like, we're very critical people, but we really do. We'll do anything because at the end of the day, we know it's the best thing to do is to be thoughtful. But at the same time, we're critical. So it's a hard thing to swallow. And I think Max and other people hear me being critical, and they don't understand that, like, with love, it's not personal.
No, but he wants you to be critical, though. That's the thing.
Well, no, he doesn't. He wants me to fight with him for funsies, and it's not fun. Debating's not fun to me. What's the fun in it?
I don't think it was debating.
Well, then he shouldn't have opened up by calling me a cult leader.
I think he fucked up. Well, no,
he did fuck up.
Well, no, I think I don't think he could have done anything other than that. But I don't think that conversation could have gone like. I think also he. I don't know. Maybe it couldn't have gone any other way.
Why do you and I get along?
Because I'm not getting emotional, because I remember him like getting trying to bring up that you were flirting with him, right? And then you had like an argument about that, and so what I'm wondering here, since Max is my role model, right? So what I'm wondering about this, like this is very honest. So is the difference because, so I need to know, is the difference a good thing or a bad thing? And first, I'm trying to go to people please you. I'm first going to, is it a bad thing?
Is what a bad thing?
Actually, no, the good thing. The bad thing about him. The thing about him that made him engage with you in that way is something wrong with him or something. And to people please you, that's what I'm first theorizing about. But I should theorize about like because he was very emotional, and he was bringing a lot of emotionally chargedness into it. Am I able to engage with you intellectually, but am I suppressing my own emotions while I'm talking to you? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. It's something I want to figure out, but also me saying that it's. How do you feel about me saying that I'm emulating Max?
Makes sense. He's your mentor or someone you look up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see you as Max. First, I see you as a full-fledged consciousness all on your own. You are not Max.
Yeah, I know. I get it. You said that everybody's...
Okay, but like I just want to make sure that's clear because I see Max as his own entity, but it doesn't bother me that you're learning from him. I'm curious what you do with it.
Yeah.
I'm here to see your journey, my bro. I want to see how it ends or continues.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm a part of it. I think I'm a part of it, though. I'm not a part of it. Like, I'm a part of it, but in the background, I'm not like, oh, Smeth learned from me, and I'll be more of a main character in your life. I feel like I'm a pretty
I definitely
side character.
I learned things from you, but I don't think you have the same mental illnesses or that kind of thing as me.
Right. So the intimacy, the amount I can see you is less than needed to form a closer bond. But the bond we have, I think, is good enough that I'm like, oh, I really enjoy Smeth. I like talking to him. I think he's interesting. I want to hear what he thinks. But I also feel like we have good like I love this conversation. I think it's so nice. Like this is what I want when I come into this space. I want to have these conversations with people. I don't want to have combative, bad faith, twisting the narratives. Like, what are we? I can't even keep up with the conversation. I'm getting I don't feel overstimulated with you. I feel energetic and happy and also like comforted in like a sense that it's comfortable. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not on edge at all. I'm just so relaxed, you know? When I went in with my talk with Max, I was very excited, like got excited. And then I was like on guard. And then I was shocked. And then I was like, and I was like, oh my, and internally I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I was like, I'm so confused. I was like, oh, he's playing a game. Okay, what game is he playing? And then I was trying to figure out what game he was playing. And then it got confusing.
I really think that he was treating you the same as he had been, because everybody else he was talking to, like most streamers are like this, where they make you, if you are a people pleaser, you're going to end up people pleasing them because they really want that. And they're going to really make it, they're going to really, they're going to broadcast like all of that to you, exactly what they need. And it's going to be obvious, and it's the easiest path, especially if you had that skill set or mindset. And so I think that he didn't start out streaming like that, but he learned to start like being really antagonistic to that and like fight against that. And then he went in, I think that he went in with you doing that.
P.S. Your picture froze, but you're talking.
Oh,
it froze on a really good moment though. You look really, your hand is up. You're like making a point.
Oh, interesting.
You're good in that sweater.
Thank you for
in a non-sexual way. Oh, there's your other camera.
Hey.
There you are. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think my brain stopped because the frame stopped.
Oh, my frame, it stopped again. I just noticed.
Oh, yeah, it did. Oh, weird.
It's because of my energy. Weird.
Yeah.
I do have to pee in a
non-sexual
way.
Do you want to? Should we pee together in a non-sexual way and then come back?
But you trust me to not. You wouldn't trust me to shower, but you would trust me to pee.
Oh, peeing is very non-sexual.
Well, okay, no, hold on. Okay, we can talk about peeing after. Okay, but
okay, perfect. Okay, you want to? Should we do that? Should we be right back?
Yeah.
Okay, let's be. Okay. Be right back, guys. Okay, I put some music on for you guys very low. I'll be back.
So yeah, peeing is very, very, very sexual.
I tried not to think about you, which made me think about you. So it was.
I think that girls should learn to pee standing up.
Oh my God, it's so difficult. I've done so much camping on my own. I grew up camping. I was such a tomboy growing up my whole life. Dirt bikes, skateboards, camping. And I tried many times to pee. And every time I make a mess. I'm not good at it.
Fair. It's definitely harder. Yeah. It's definitely harder. It's just I think that we in potty training, like our kids and stuff, there's this discrepancy between how we teach our like boys and how we teach our girls. And I think boys start off with a solid foot into their relationship with their body and their own sex organs being something they have like control over, and being something like, you know, and it's like a fun thing. Like you can aim it, you can saw the log, you know, you can write your name in the snow. And I think that girls is just something you kind of hide. And I think that sets the tone for a lot in society.
My dad sits to pee and raised all my brothers to sit to pee.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any more questions about or observations?
I think realistically, the thing that I took from it the most was just the thing that I'm figuring out with my work is like, why do so many men complain that nobody cares about their feelings, but yet won't acknowledge?
I have a new framework.
Yeah, tell me.
Men, so the red pill idiots and stuff, they all say that men have turned into women. That's not true. Men have just turned into babies, and they're part of it. And I think that it's like hypergamy actually is not really so real as people think it is. There's actually a trend of women settling more, not less. And I think that women are just not impressed with men right now. Men are
maybe.
I think I briefly pointed this out to Max the other day, and he brought up Trump. I think that might be like an archetype of this like baby man, that's sort of like men are just women are becoming more like men, and men are just becoming like worse men.
I could see that actually. Yeah. I think there's a huge part of that at play in parts of society for sure. Yeah, definitely. Also, I think like hypergamy is a very interesting social construct that does occur in certain places. But I think like the word settling is so different in my vocabulary. It means you're settling on values. And like I was never taught that a man's income was a part of his value. A man's willingness to work hard was. And those are two very different things. But in hypergamy conversations, they usually equate a man's worth to his income, and women date up, meaning income and status. But I think you should date values. You should always date somebody who's like more disciplined, but also not really. Like equal discipline's fine, but never date anyone less disciplined than you. Like you know, but like again, values. Like I wouldn't date someone with less values than me. I would date someone with the same values or even more disciplined than me. But like, what is income, right? What is money? It's a construct. I want someone who works hard and is willing to work hard and do what it takes, not somebody who makes a lot of money. Like, what good is your money, right, if you're an asshole and you beat me? What good is your money if you cheat on me? What good is your money if you're going to hit our kids?
I just want someone to put up with me.
Is that real or is that a joke?
It's kind of real.
Can I explore that with you or no?
Being the type of streamer that I am, is going to like the vulnerability is in sort of emotional exhibitionism, maybe. That is something that someone needs to tolerate. They need to tolerate me my emotions and stuff like that, and not give up and be able to figure things out. So like when I say that, it's just that I feel like good relationships aren't found, they're built. That doesn't mean that you can't find somebody that is like, like there's certain qualities that are important to help establish that, but also there's a different aspect that I find like is really important and sort of rare and rarer, and that is the commitment to building the thing and not giving up. And so I think that is a really important thing. Like, so if I can't find everything else, if that thing exists, then that's a lot better than the opposite.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched the David Beckham docuseries on Netflix recently, and I think what was clear to me is as David transferred from team to team, it could start off strong as long as everyone was individually a strong player, because you never do anything alone. And when he got into a team that was weak as individuals, it like didn't matter how good he was. And then when he got into teams where everyone did their own work, it became like an amazing team right away. And I think that's how I view like the differences. Like I felt like I was always playing on teams where I was doing the best, and that's not good. Like I shouldn't be the best person here. I was a mess. But in my now relationship, I feel like we both are the David Beckham of our lives. And so by the time we got together, it was like, oh, the team was going to do fine because like we're both doing the work. So the relationship had to be built with each other. I couldn't have built it without him, and vice versa. But the cool thing about the difference is like I'm not the star player, and I hated being the star player. I thought that was always the sign to me that something was wrong, was that I couldn't rely on my partner the way I relied on myself. And I need a partner I can rely on the same way I can rely on myself. They're different in texture. Like strawberry cake is different from coconut, but like still good cake, And that's what I'm looking for. So I see it more like a team building thing. I couldn't do it without him, but I also know I needed somebody who was already doing their own, putting in the 100%. We both put in 100%. So going back to what you said earlier, like that's hard for me to identify at this stage in my life. Now that you have to be there, obviously, we're all at different stages of like.
You're like married, right? So, yeah. So like I'm not. So I think that.
Oh, do you believe in? I wasn't sure. Like, do you believe in marriage?
I think that you probably have insight that I don't have.
Oh, I actually don't know your relationship structure either. I don't know if this is like your forever partner or just like the person you're dating, and to see if your forever partner.
It's to see.
Okay. So okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that makes sense too. Obviously, I wouldn't have married him. I've never married anybody. Like, I wouldn't have done that unless I was sure that we were going to grow old together in a way that made sense for our lives. But you learn to do that by dating. I've dated enough people to know, so I get it. Yeah. But like to be put up with is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel spoonage. I feel spoon running low, but for me.
Fair.
For me, that is a really weird thing because the feeling of spoons running low is synonymous with me people pleasing. And I think that mini conversation we just had was me people pleasing you.
That's fair.
Does
that could make
sense. Did that conversation feel less invigorating or whatever than previous conversation in any extent?
I think the reason I asked your permission to go down it was I wasn't sure how interesting it was to you.
Oh.
Like you might not get, like it might be boring.
So what we're doing now, I can like, and that like I still feel a little bit tired, but like then like I get energized, but like the more, it's people pleasing that it makes me feel exhausted and tired. Panels do that to me so much because everybody is the way, like, everybody's trying to force you to be small. And if you have a big audience, it doesn't happen to you as much. But
if you had said no to me, like if I said, hey, can we expand on that? And you'd been like, nope, I'm not interested. I'd be like, okay. And then I would have gone to something else. But you didn't.
But you've propped me up. You've propped me up as this excellent conversational partner, and so then like I have to meet these lofty expectations. I need. Yeah.
You saying no will signal to me that like that's how worthy you are of a conversationalist. You won't waste my time.
Well, I'm telling you now, I'm learning to not waste people's time.
I appreciate that. I think that's a good skill to learn. I also think it's hard for people to process because
And my own time. I don't care about your time. I care about my time. It just hurts me. It's like torture. It's pain. Like, and I'll watch it after, and then I will like hate that person. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why? Like, it was so like, why did you start doing that? Yeah, and yeah, I don't agree with you that fear is the root of all evil.
Fair.
But I do agree that in this context, it's the root of a lot of this shit. But there's times when fear is good.
I mean, fear within reason makes sense. I think when I say that, I'm being a little like, I'm trying to be big, I'm trying to like make people go, oh, what? What does she mean? Like, obviously, with a lot of what I'm saying, like, I'll tell a joke. My audience is like, that's very serious. I'm like, no, that's the joke. And like, okay. So obviously, when I say fear is the root of all evil, I don't mean like fear is a
keep
reason.
People alive,
Yeah, I'm saying like fear. Yeah, the extreme of fear is also the neglect of introspection, which is why people like cognitive dissonance, which is why people don't allow themselves to like.
Yeah, the fear is what makes me people please, and that's what creates a lot of cognitive dissonance, and yeah.
It's actually why I ended up being the person that I am, where I'm like, no. And then people will be like, what do you mean no? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, I know I'm being rude right now, but I know if I give into this, then I'm giving into my fear. And if I give into my fear, I'll become a person I hate to make you feel comfortable. So I'm going to make you be uncomfortable because you're asking me to be uncomfortable, and I'm going to pick me. And like, it sounds really cruel because like you are taught, especially as a girl in my bubble, to like please. And then you hear a lot of feedback since I was a little girl. Like since I was a little girl, like, Brittany, you can't just do that. And I'm like, but yet I did, and nobody killed me. So I think it's okay. Like, I think I'm testing the boundaries when adults tell me, like, you can't just do that. And I'm like, what's going to happen? And they're like, we won't want to hang out with you. And I was like, I can live with that. And everyone's like, oh,
you shouldn't want to hang out with me. You don't like me,
Exactly. That's what, like, and I'm trying to say, like, there's a difference between, like, somebody who's close to me coming to me and saying like, hey, I don't think I like the way you said that. Look, if my mom and dad watch my work, which they don't, we have an understanding, they would say, your work really hurts me. I want you to not do it. And I would say, I love that you're coming to me and telling me that. I decline your request. And they'd say, what do you mean? And I'd say, well, I'm not Catholic and you're upset that I'm like talking about Catholicism, but I'm not going to do it. And I have people tell me that all the time. Like, I have my friends who come to me and they're like, I don't like the way you talk about white men. I don't like the way you talk about this. I don't like the way. Get your own YouTube channel. I love you. Get your own channel. I think people forget, like, it's not about you.
That was me. That person that got the own YouTube, because I was just repeatedly posting in Mr. Girl's inbox or whatever, like all this like criticism, everything he said that was wrong constantly, and I just made my own YouTube channel.
See? And like, you're an interesting content creator. You have your own thing. I don't even associate you with him as like, a lot of people will say things like, oh, Smeth like is Mr. Girl Jr. and like, does he even have his own identity? Yes. You guys are just not seeing it because you're brain dead. But it's like, not, also that's fair.
It's almost weaponized. It's not.
It is.
Yeah. It's not like but those people, the only thing is, I don't want those people to define me to other people that aren't already saying that. Yeah.
But like, it's going to be what it is, right? Like people like, I mean, when I came into this space, I already had my own career, my own income, my own fan base and everything. Great fan base, the best fan base. And when I came into this space and I like somewhat left it, people would say things like, oh, her career is over. And I'm like, what is it? You guys are so narcissistic that you think like you're the end all be all of people's careers. Like, I've never been in a space that has ever said that to me, where like, her career's over if she's not hanging out with us. And I'm like, what? Like, that's amazing to me. Like, I've never, you did freeze. Yeah, you did freeze.
I see it.
So that's this is yeah.
I just need to have fun with it, I think. And sort of use Max as a like tool to talk about other things, and then because that is ironically that has made people see me as separate more than anything else.
I believe that. I believe that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the best commentary channels or the best channels or the best content creators, in my opinion, are people who use other people to make a greater point because they're lived examples. Like, I know it's like offensive to some people, but like, bro, if you put your life online for content, it's a great example. But also, it also gives people opportunity to explain themselves further. Like, if somebody makes a video misrepresenting you, you can like make another video, and then that like expands the ideas. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to really have fun before we die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna take your videos off the internet before you die?
No. Are you?
I don't know yet.
I'm not concerned about being remembered forever or anything. I just don't. Like, it's not like my goal. Some people that, you know, define themselves as an artist, like their whole thing is really just be afraid to die, and they don't want to be forgotten. But that's
Right.
not what it is for me. I just want to do it, and it's about being connecting with other people while I'm alive.
Yeah, I have like 1,000 videos that are privated. Maybe I would like unleash them all into the world. Like, they're all so interesting, and they show there's such a good time capsule for like the time I was there and like what my generation was talking about or like what my bubble was talking about. Maybe I'd unleash them onto the public to show like a journey, you know, like a documentary or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm probably not gonna.
that's how I
Mhm.
am now. I like have like my early streams. I feel like I was. I mean, I need to love that version of me, but I feel like I was just like people pleasing a lot, but I'm not taking them down.
Yeah, see, I private every new era of Brittany. I private and I restart because I don't like going back and like having a miscommunication of like what my values are now because I changed so
That
drastically.
is something I want to have a conversation about, though, because like in because when people take something you said, like this used to be a big fear of mine because I see people do it in this sphere a lot, where they'll take something you said in the past and see, but like you're a hypocrite or whatever, and it's like, no, I changed, and
Right.
that I think
Right.
is an interesting conversation to have. A lot of
Yeah.
I think a lot of these these attitudes are ironically content gold for talking about like they're like branching off points to talk about like other things. So I'm honestly I kind of am excited for that.
Yeah. I can see that.
I am losing spoons though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little tired, honestly. It's like 12:30 a.m. I'm getting a little tired. Plus, you work today. So thank you for making time to talk to me.
Yeah. You're
I appreciate it. I really do.
I have to figure out if I have to work tomorrow, but
Well, fingers crossed. Please reach out if you ever want to talk again. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this moment takes you.
all right.
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
Smith.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay. You fucks. Okay, that ends the stream today. The only plan that I have going forward is I'm talking to Alex Kirchen on the 17th. But I'm sure that between now and then I will have... Actually, that's not too far from now. That's actually 2 days from now, so that's soon. Between then and after then, I'm sure I'll have more streams. Look forward to it. You can join my Discord. You get the most likely place to see any notifications or updates. Always P standing up. Don't let them trick you. It's not hard. What? Don't let them define what a mess means. A mess means whatever you think it means. Some people might say that you smell like piss, but maybe you think that smelling like piss is actually just smelling like a human. And maybe you're right. Maybe you've got everything figured out. And all you gotta do to figure that out is just listen to me and fucking pee standing up. Fucking goddamn it. And clean your room. Good night. Smeth heads, have a great night. Have a great rest of your night.